Jonathan Sacks, the chief rabbi of Great Britain, is author of the book The Dignity of Difference, says one belief more than any other has been responsible for the slaughter of individuals on the altars of great historical ideals. It is the belief that those who do not share my faith, or my race, or my ideology, do not share my humanity. At best, they are second-class citizens. At worst, they forfeit the sanctity of life itself. Sacks goes on, they are the unsaved, the unbelievers, the infidel, the unredeemed. They stand outside the circle of salvation. If faith is what makes me human, then those who do not share my faith are less than fully human. From this equation flowed the Crusades, Inquisitions, jihads, pogroms, the blood of human sacrifice throughout the ages. From it, ultimately, came the Holocaust. Yes, the path to peace, the agenda for interfaith, must begin with tolerance. But in medicine or in chemotherapy, tolerance is the amount of poison you can take without it killing you. Tolerance is a minimum legal position. Tolerance is the avoidance of violence. A valuable base, but hardly the goal. The story is told of Saint Denis, the first bishop of Paris, was killed by beheading. Legend has it that then he walked 6 miles carrying his own head while it was preaching. When told of this, Madame du Deffant said, "On such a journey, I would guess that the first step is the most difficult." Yes, for some, tolerance is the hardest first step. But there's more. The second stage in this agenda for interfaith understanding, I would suggest, is hospitality. The root of the word hospitality is from the Latin hospitar, which means to receive the stranger. Martin Marty, in his book When Faiths Collide, argues that we not settle for tolerance, but that we take the aggressive risk of hospitality. Hospitality permits regarding the other as being truly different. But, as we have learned in the readings this morning, God cares about the stranger. The Jewish scripture, when a stranger lives among you, do not ill-treat him. Jesus said, "Come to me, you are blessed by the Father. Take your inheritance, for when I was a stranger, you welcomed me." And from the Quran, be kind to parents and near kinsmen and orphans and the needy and the neighbor who is a stranger. Yet all 3 Abrahamic religions affirm hospitality as a virtue. There are limits, however, to hospitality. The rule of St. Benedict, which had a rule for every conceivable situation, states, "Let all the guests who arrive be received as Christ, for he said, 'I was a stranger, and you took me in,'" quoting that same Matthew passage. But then the rule goes on and says, "If a visitor is found to be gossipy or rebellious, it shall be said to him honestly, he must depart." But St. Benedict knew that that might not work. So he said, "If he does not go, let 2 stout monks, in the name of God, explain the matter to him." Hospitality is the second step in our agenda for interfaith understanding. But I can be hospitable to someone I don't even like, to a beggar or to an enemy. So I'd like to suggest there's a third step, and that is understanding. Understanding is what comes through conversation, seeing the other person's point of view. It involves listening, making my views intelligible to someone who may not share them, and listening, entering into the inner world of someone whose views may be opposed to my own. An important third step. But there's a fourth step, and I suggest that that is respect. It goes beyond conversation to true dialogue. Because I respect you and because you hold a particular set of beliefs, I am obligated to consider those beliefs differently. Not I agree with you, therefore I respect you, but I respect you as a person, and therefore I must listen more carefully to what you have to say. It's because all of the major religions are not in essence the same that engaging in dialogue is worthwhile. Their adherents rightly argue with each other about the merits and truth content of their respective religions. But in dialogue, it's in an attitude of respect. The fifth step, beyond respect, is acceptance. You no longer seek to change the other person. Conversion is not an option or a goal. And the best way for me to describe this is to tell you about what happened 2 years ago when Dr. Omid Safi, the professor of Islamic Studies, who will be with us in October, as Pastor Hemrick mentioned, when he was here 2 years ago for our interfaith conference at Calvin College. He gave a wonderful talk, and there were questions and answers. And toward the end of this, one very well-meaning person said, Dr. Safi, I really like what you have to say, and I like you, and I want to see you in heaven. So I hope you'll accept Jesus as your Savior. Well, you can imagine there was a lot of squirming and on the part of the audience, but not on Dr. Safi's part. Omid Safi very quietly said, you know, and by the way, he was raised in Iran. He's Iranian, raised there. He says, you know, my mother always wanted me to marry a nice Iranian girl. But I met this beautiful, red-headed French Canadian. We fell in love. We're married. We have a family, wonderful children. We're very happy. My mother is beginning to understand that my happiness might be as important as her concept of what my happiness should have been. Isn't that beautiful? He didn't argue against him. He didn't say, you're wrong and I'm right. He didn't say, too bad you're such a narrow-minded person. He just very gently said, maybe someone's happiness is as important as your concept of what it should have been. Professor Margalit at Hebrew University says, can Judaism, Christianity, and Islam be pluralistic? The question is not whether we can tolerate one another, but whether we can accept the idea that other religions have intrinsic value, that they will not refrain from persecuting others, but will actually encourage a flourishing of their way of life. Acceptance. I want to propose a sixth and final step in the path to peace, and I'm calling that holy envy. And this comes from Krister Stendahl, who was the Dean of Harvard School of Divinity and Bishop of the Church of Sweden. And he gives us 3 rules for interfaith understanding. Number 1, when trying to understand another religion, you should ask the adherents of that religion, not its enemies. 2, don't compare your best with their worst. And 3, leave room for holy envy. Holy envy is being willing to recognize elements in the other religious tradition that you admire and wish could in some way be reflected in your own tradition or faith. My wife and I had the privilege of traveling with Omid Safi for 2.5 weeks in Turkey on a tour. He takes students there every year, and we tagged along with them. And after 2.5 weeks of learning from him about Islam and the many mosques that we visited in Turkey, at the end I said, Omid, getting to know you and the depth of your faith has made me a better Christian, because I saw what I call a pre-verbal resonance between us. And it inspired me because of his faith and his practice. Well, those are the 6 steps of the path or the agenda. I want to review them briefly. And for some of you, I think you'll be able to relate to this because you're kind of at the same life position that I am, and that is having raised children. So I'm going to compare this to raising children. Tolerance, the first step, is the way we deal with babies. What? Those cute little babies? Remember colic, waking up in the night, diapers? Sometimes we just tolerate. It's unfortunate, but the statistics show that most child abuse happens to babies. It's babies that are put in dumpsters. It's babies that are abandoned. So we need to learn tolerance with babies. As they grow older, hospitality is the position I say we take to young children. Very different than we are, but we're hospitable. We do nice things for them. Different from us, but we're kind to them. As they become preteens, we focus on understanding. Adolescence, we work on respect. You're doing it your way, I'll try to respect that.